Hello, it's Jang here with a look at a Mega Construx set, Mega Construx Halo set that came out in 2018. It's the Banished Marauder Strike. Now I say it came out, but did it really? Didn't seem to have come out in the United States. Doesn't seem to have come out anywhere other than Canada, as best I can tell. I might be mistaken on that. Feel free to comment or check the comments for existing comments about the subject of the release regions for this thing, but as far as I can see, it appears to have only shown up, at least reliably, in some places in Canada. I ordered mine from an individual who bought it in Canada. So I ordered this like probably a month before you're seeing this video here. Fortunately, it came in good shape and everything. Got it actually brand new with the box and everything. Gonna take a closer look at it. Of course, it comes with a Banished Marauder and a Banished Brute. There's also a Jackal to man the turret on the back of it. This is the most interesting thing here to me personally. It's the Hrunting Yggdrasil Mark 1J, the green machine of Sergeant Johnson himself. Something basically they made up for Halo Wars 2 just for the sake of coming up with something fun. I support that 100%, even though I personally am not a big fan of Halo Wars 2. Just personal choice, just didn't connect with me the way that the original did. Let's start off taking a closer look at this mech, though. Yeah, get right in there on that mech. Check out that mech action. Everybody knows, obviously, this is based on, in-universe. It's all made up, of course. I mean, they just wanted to get Sergeant Johnson into Halo Wars 2, and they wanted him to be formidable on the battlefield, so they put him into this suit that has lots of weapons. The whole thing is based on the prototype, the Mark 1 suit, just like the one in the video that I did where I reviewed the 3 Mega Exo suits that they came up with. One for the Banished team, one that's literally the original prototype from Halo Legends, and then one they did as just an extra, the Skyfire one. And this is the original incarnation. I think this was it was either the first or the second incarnation of this particular suit, this particular system for basically creating a suit for a figure. So there is a full-on micro-action figure, just a standard micro-action figure of Sergeant Johnson in there. And I will show you what that looks like removed. But before I start taking anything off, I want you to see, what the whole thing looks like. I personally actually find this to be a little bit better, a little bit higher end, if you will, than the exosuits, or at least particularly the prototype Mark 1, the regular Mark 1, not the J that they did. Because, look, you got the little utility robot arm that comes up from behind. It can fold around and stuff. It's not, the whole arm is not able to rotate from side to side, unfortunately. That is one thing that's definitely missing here. You can rotate the hand, but it's nice to be able to access that. Actually be able to bring something up. Nicer still, be able to bring a weapon system up from the back. You can't do that with the exosuit, the proper Mark 1 prototype one that they did. I just think that's cooler. And this does have a nice little print on the front of that. Is it the front or the back? I don't know what you call it. The vertical side of the 1x1 cheese slope piece. You can bring that back. That's a paint application there for the shoulder. Matches on the other side. There's also a relatively subtle paint application on the top of each little foot there, just all the way down, the little bit of green that shows up on the top of that. Now, they do include this small bit of terrain. You do not need to use that, though. The feet have anti-studs on them, so you can connect to things, which allows you to go into weirder poses than are possible without. But just as it is, these things are fairly stable. If you're not familiar with this platform, this mech platform, again, full figure inside, so that made it very difficult to make this work, but it actually does work pretty well indeed. The hip joint on either side, or the top of the thigh, is a ball joint, so you can kind of bring the legs apart, not too far. There are some limits, but you can bring them apart, bring them back together. You can move this forward, like so, And back, not quite as much, but it's not bad. And then this has knees, so that can go back. Let me see if I can actually get this to work right here and stand up on its own. There we go. So it is kind of on the edge right now, but you are able to get this into an action pose without it being on a studded base. There we go. You put a little more time into it, you can get it to be more stable than that. But the legs do work pretty properly. You may need to rotate some of the smaller joints on these, the smaller socket joints, to get some of the poses that you want. I found that to be more the case for the arms, especially. Now, the arms are able to, like at the shoulders, they're able to rotate all the way up. Like you can, look at that, how far you can go back. You can keep going as well. Bring this way, like so. So that's good. And then obviously it has elbows. That can be right up and down. Strangely, by default, Mega has you build this with the joint in a weird orientation where you're not able to really flex the elbow effectively. It's just odd. So rotate it around and then you have just a normal range of motion that makes sense. The Gatling gun can be spun around. That's nice. And on the other side, you have a usable hand. It has a hole on the top of it. So anything the size of a regular bar piece from Mega, such as just the hand, the main grip, the vertical grip of most weapons will fit into there, just regular figure weapons. So yeah, it all works out pretty well. It's it's small. The whole thing is small and there's a lot there. There are so many components here that it feels a little bit awkward for me to manipulate everything, but you can get it into poses that you want. That's what's most important. And it doesn't fall apart like a second generation Cyclops. They did nice things with the joints in terms of their ranges of motion with those, but these are just more stable, generally speaking. The Sergeant Johnson figure, all right, let's get this over with. Let's just rip the bandage off. Those eyes, come on. Really making me uncomfortable right there. Just huge corneas, tiny little pupils. This is like pupils with no irises. I don't know. I mean, there's some consistency there. It looks like it's done on purpose, but it's just too much. I mean, the eyes, the whites of the eyes needs to be, I don't know, 15-20% smaller, something like that for this scale of figure. So yeah, just had to get that out of the way. It's weird, right? That mustache though, the mustache looks like it's crooked. If that was a mistake in production, it's a wonderful mistake because it really adds so much character to the facial expression. If it's not a mistake, I strongly salute the designer because that's great. It totally makes the face, even with the weird eyes. The crooked mustache, makes it look like he's making a certain expression with his mouth, and it's just right. The rest of the figure looks good. Now, most of the armor pieces, all the add-on armor pieces, do have to be stripped off to put him into the walker, to put him into the mech. But that's no big deal. Takes a minute or so. And I like the parts. Generally looks pretty good. The color match is not all there between the armor pieces and the hat. I don't know if it really needs to be. I think I would have liked to see it matched a bit better. But just generally, it's a pretty good looking figure. It comes with just the assault rifle, and it is the modern style with the ability to attach accessories to it. So you can put muzzle accessories on the end. You can also put optic pieces up on top. And yeah, that's it for that. Oh yeah, this one does not come with that little black base piece. There's actually no special base piece for this figure in this set. The Marauder is nice. I personally was more interested in the Green Machine mech, but after building this, I find myself more satisfied with the Marauder side of it. I feel like this is just a great thing to mass up a little bit, or at least have a couple of. Just imagine having two of these side by side, one a little bit farther forward than the other, one with the turret turned off to one side, the other one looking forward. It just looks good and looks like something you want to have multiples of. The build of it is kind of cool, kind of interesting, kind of unexpected as well. I was not expecting this in particular. The ability to turn those two little front pods from side to side. Now, as I was building this, I was a lot more happy with it than I am now. This feature right here, the steering feature. Because as you're building it, you have a lot more range of motion. And then you put the center section on and then it limits it a lot. But it's better to have something than nothing. It's nice that these are linked. You know, gives it a little magic. Adds a little just engineering to it. Makes it a little bit more cool. I like how these parts come around the sides. It's a super simple part of the build, but it works very effectively. You can actually tune the angles of these rear little bits like you could on a Wraith. I don't know if they're supposed to go up and down again. I just didn't play enough Halo Wars 2 myself. But just generally speaking, this thing looks pretty proper to me. The turret has no friction whatsoever. Would have been nice to have some, but it's not that big of a deal. Really cool thing here is that this does actually shoot. You can see the little bolt. It's one of those smaller ones. This is the trigger up on top. And it just, you just push that in. See if I can catch it right here. Yeah, push that down. There we go. Yeah. I did. You may have noticed I kind of put a finger or a thumb underneath here. If you're not careful with this at all, you may actually bend some parts apart. You just put it back together, but it's not the most durable of builds, I will say that. Especially back in here. And then the cockpit section is probably the least complete, or no, the worst part of it, I guess. Just it has the worst fit and finish once you actually put a figure in there. Now, this has wonderful printing. You know, got all these scratches on the sides here, scratches on the front, good detailing, just good texture and everything. But it's really stressing to fit that brute in there. You kind of need to move his armor pieces around a bit and just kind of squeeze everything in there to make him just barely fit. Now, once he does fit, he's fitting about right. There's also a little printed console piece for him. That's a trans blue piece. So that's pretty nice. But let me pull this up so you can see inside. Yeah, it's just skirting by, and actually it's spread these side bits a little. If you don't get it just right, then if you just try to suddenly close it, you'll actually pop one of these off. Again, just a little bit of a lack of durability with that. Put that back on. This can also be put out of place a bit. So you could just open that up to give him just a small little access door, I guess. But he sits in there in a very comfortable chair, I will say that. Before you bring all the top part down, it's a very comfy looking seat. His feet get out of the way. They're way down in there. I do need to pull them out, unfortunately, in order to show you that seat, because look at those cushions, man. I just want to sit in that. See what that feels like. Could use a little bit more base cushion, but just it looks like it would just gobble you up. Like you just sit way down in there. Like a really good recliner. Nice color and nice parts. But yeah, that's that. And then, the figure stays in place. The driver figure stays in place by holding on to these controls. Those are good. So generally speaking, most of this I think is done pretty well. But the accommodation for the figure, not the best. It does have these dome pieces, inverted dome pieces on the underside to allow it to, be moved around. It's supposed to be a hovering craft, and that gives it a little bit of elevation off the ground as well. So yeah, works out pretty well. Maybe this whole base is a little bit awkward. Maybe there's a little bit too much of it present, but generally speaking, I just think the thing will look really, really nice on display. Even better with a pair of them. The Banished Brute looks bad. Not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good, of course, obviously. Just that color scheme. It's not black. The armor pieces are not black. They're dark gray, very dark gray. No metallic flake in them as far as I can see, but the paint is like I don't know, it's just slightly magenta of red. It's almost like a wine, but even slightly more magenta than that. And that has metallic flake in it. Very subtle though, not big glittery pieces. Just a little bit, adds a little bit of sheen, a little bit of shine. changes how it just refracts the light depending upon the angle. So that's pretty good. I like the overall color scheme for the whole thing. Yeah, got the spiker there, and the skin tone for this one is also nice and dark, so it just goes with it really well. Nothing really spoils the color scheme here. The weapon is a little bit bright in silver, but I'm okay with that contrast. Only thing that I did not like about this one in particular, it actually came halfway assembled from the factory with the armor on and everything, with the helmet on, but the armor piece is super loose. Super loose. Look at that. Barely grabbing on at all. I feel like that's probably just an issue that they had for an entire batch, and that's the reason that they decided to pre-assemble them, kind of just so that we would get past that stage. It's probably a little thing of embarrassment. I don't know if that may have contributed to this not being released as widely, just finding that quality control issue. Fortunately, it's not that big of an issue. It stays on. It's just a little loose. But once you put the helmet on, it's not going to come off or anything. So it still works. Just had to point it out because it is a little boo-boo. And lastly, a jackal. Is this a jackal? Is it a jackal?
A jackal! Jackal! It's a jackal! It looks like a jackal! 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 It's a jackal! Jackal!
Yes, it is a jackal. And it's a pretty good looking one. Don't think that's a skin tone that they've used for any of the Covenant forces before. It's a little darker. And it has a little, it's more saturated than usual, and I like it. It's pretty cool. And the paint applications for the face are on point. The eye with the slit, very good. Teeth, yes. The tongue, yes. The little tuft on the top has a little bit of overspray around the sides, but it's not bad. You can kind of look at it as being a good thing. And just generally the build for this is, well, like an Elite, isn't it? Very, very, very much like an Elite. But that's okay. The overall stance works for me. Has a little plasma pistol, the modern style, in silver, which is cool. And yeah, just generally speaking, it's a pretty good figure. I'd say it might be the most realistic, most well done figure of the three in this set. Yeah, it's just good though. Banished Marauder Strike, pretty decent set overall. Presents pretty well. Does have its little flaws, but on the whole, pretty worthy. Too bad most of us have not been able to get it and never will be able to get it. I was very lucky that I was able to get one that wasn't marked up too much on the aftermarket after all this time. But yeah, no need to really talk much more about Mega's distribution issues. It's been beaten way beyond the point of being a dead horse, and they're working on it evidently. Yes, I am hyped for Halo Infinite. Increasingly so. Did see the reveal of the first 3 sets from Mega. They look pretty good. They don't look like they're going to change my life or anything, but they do look pretty good. I'm especially looking forward to that Pelican. But all that stuff is way off in the future, so we've got a long ways to go. Until then, I'll be making more content for you to check out. So thank you for watching. Thanks for sticking with me, and I'll talk to you again as soon as I can.